Welcome back, everybody. And I'd like to welcome from New Zealand, here she is. She's just come from the kitchen. And would you welcome Ros along for her interesting talk today? You've got us all on tenterhooks. Ros, welcome to our session. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I was thinking, some people find that peace that you were leading us through there in the meditation, if they find it fishing. Now, I'm sorry, my accent, you'll hear me say fushing or something like that, but fishing, and what I want to talk about is fly fishing, not catching flies like that, but that kind where you. So I had a friend who came and he knew that New Zealand had great fly fishing rivers. So I took him to a river and got him set up. And he spent the whole day. I can't imagine. He spent the whole day and came back at the end of the day and had caught some fish. And he told me a story when he got back. He said, there he was, and got his spot, and it was great. And he stood in the cold water. But just along the way, there was another guy fishing, and he could see every now and again, this guy would catch a fish and he'd bring it up, and then he held up something against the fish. And it seemed if it was too small, then he threw it back. If it was bigger than what he was holding up, he threw it back. And so my friend's starting to think, oh, there must be some kind of size limit. You must have to get an exact size when you're fishing in this river. So he went over to the guy to ask him and said, so what's with this? I've noticed you're throwing back those that are smaller than this and those that are bigger. And the guy looks at him and says, no, this is just the size of my frying pan. It fits exactly. I only catch fish that will fit in my pan. And it was like, I said, well, you should have told him to get a bigger pan. But what it made me think about was, that we have to, whenever we're doing this work about, we want to see something come into our lives, we have to limit it, right? There's this, we know that there's the spiritual substance which is everywhere present, and that it's our thoughts and our words and our actions which bring it into manifestation. So we do have to limit it to some extent. But what I was thinking about, the frying pan, if you imagine the frying pan for a moment being your mind, actually, let's think about it as being your circumstances, your pocketbook, your account, the cash flow, your income. And you go, all right, so I've got this much, therefore I've got to look for something to fit into that size. All right, anyone done that? You go that way around? Yeah. Okay. Now, my understanding of what Charles Fulmer was talking about in his teachings was that we need to go the other way. We need to start thinking about, well, what do I really want? How big am I prepared to think? And then you grow into that. So it's not about, oh yeah, I want something that big and going and getting it, because that is disastrous. I used to do that, and I got myself into a lot of debt, and it was very painful. So this is about, you start with, okay, what would I really love? And how big can I allow myself? How big a frying pan can I imagine? And it's from there, so you've expanded what you think is possible, and then you grow into grow into it. Charles Fulmer talks about we need to evolve with our possessions. So if we go, here's the size of my frying pan, it's that size, but I want something this big, doesn't fit. It's too big for the frying pan. And what happens is that we get it. So imagine that this represents our ideas. You've expanded that, but if the thing that you're wanting is still too big, it won't land. You can't do anything with it, because your mind is going, no, this is how big, this is bigger, it doesn't fit. So the work that we have to do is in the expansion of our minds. We have to do that. Remember that it's mind, idea, expression. Mind, idea, expression. We have to do the work on the mind first to expand it. How big can you make your frying pan? How big can you make it? I've got another one here, a bigger one. So we have to be prepared to do that work, because if we're trying to squeeze this into the smaller frying pan, then all that happens is that it just gets chaotic. That won't work. So we do that work first of, okay, how big a frying pan? And then we look at what we will fit into that, because we do have to limit it at some stage, don't we? We can't just say, oh, we'll just send me anything you like to the universe. What's it going to do? We have to do the work of saying, what is it going to look like? How big is it? What color is it? You know, if it's a thing, then we've got to put the specifications. What do we want it to look like? So we do it from that expanded place. It doesn't mean you rush off and get it right then, because it's a process of growing into. I remember a great story of, some people may know of this couple, Katie and Gay Hendricks. And they do a lot of great work. And they were a young professional couple who were really struggling financially. And this idea came to Gay one day when he was on his exercise machine, that instead of worrying about the bills at the end of the month, how are they going to pay them? You know, they shift this amount of money over here, and that still left some bills unpaid. He suddenly had this idea. He said, you know, I've been having this conversation every month all my adult life. And then he had this awareness that actually, I think my parents had the same conversation. I heard it all the time when I was growing up. And he said, I wonder what it would be like just to imagine that there was an extra $1,000 in our bank account by the end of the month. And he enrolled his wife, Katie, in this as well. And they both loved the idea. And so they acted as if. So then they went around fancy restaurants. They didn't go in, but they looked at the menu and they, if we had that extra $1,000, we could go out for dinner. If we had that extra $1,000, I could actually buy that. So what I'm thinking is, well, when they finish that and 90 days later, they open up the checkbook and there's another $1,000 in there. You go, oh, how did that happen? Because they had expanded their minds to the possibility. Gay saw an opportunity that had been right in front of his nose, but because of the size of his frying pan before that, he couldn't see this opportunity. As soon as he expanded as soon as they expanded their vision, then this opportunity actually produced some extra income. So what I'm suggesting is that if you're feeling constrained by the size of your frying pan, start to go, well, what if? Imagine that we did have this extra money. What could we do with it? And you play with that idea, because then it allows you to catch a bigger idea. Mind idea expression. Got to start. If we just go straight for the idea, oh yeah, I'm going to go for this big thing, not going to work. So even when we've got to that point of going, okay, expanded the vision, got this great idea, and we want to bring it into manifestation, there's another thing that happens, and some of you will recognize this. In Unity, we call it chemicalization. In some places, they just say it's, the fear comes up, or the anxiety, the terror barrier is what Bob Proctor talks about. But it is actually a chemical reaction. Let me show you. You may have seen this. So you're going along and you've got, this is now your normal state of being, right? You can see everything's calm. It's sitting on the bottom. This is life going on. And then you get this idea about, no, we could do this. We could go for that, this big idea. And you go, suddenly what happens? It spills out all over the place, and and you feel it in your body, right? It's extremely uncomfortable, because there is a chemical reaction within us. And that's often the point where people just pull back. It's so uncomfortable. I feel so much fear. I can't go on with this. It must mean that I'm doing it wrong. Or it must mean I'm not to do this. But it's not that at all. It's a normal part of this whole process. First of all, expand the mind. What size? What size frying pan? That size, or we're going to go bigger? And then the ideas come. When you expand the mind, then bigger ideas will be allowed to come in. Then you go to the next step of, okay, what are we going to do about this? Bringing it into manifestation, and the fear comes up. The chemicalization, all part of the process. So my question for you, so what size frying pan? How big is your frying pan? You're going to get a bigger one? That's it. I'll have to clean up my mess here. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Ros. I believe we have a frying pan here. I better check what size it is a little bit later. Would you thank Ros once again for that beautiful talk? Reminds me of that word chemicalization. It's one of the words that I've stood out, especially with the early Ponder books, and it's still appropriate, isn't it? So thank you for that very inspiring talk. I think everyone here is all fired up with it. So hopefully we'll expand our ideas and to get a bigger frying pan. Do you know, it was very hard, Ros, to get a song to fit after that.